This is Every Widow Thing.
This episode is brought to you in part by spiritpieces.com. Beautiful cremation jewelry and glass art pieces for people and pets. You can find their information on the Every Widow Thing Instagram highlight reel.
Today's episode is brought to you by Roger Brooks and his team at Strategic Investment Management. As an Austin-based fiduciary financial advisory firm, Roger and his team bring decades of experience and empathy to help people regain financial control through life's ups and downs so you can move forward with confidence. Welcome back to Every Widow Thing. I'm Lacey, and I'm here with Kira, Whitney, and Holly. And we have guests today, Don and Katie Cash. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you so much for doing this.
Morning.
Great to be here.
It can be a lot of voices
Yes.
coming at you.
I've heard it, yeah.
We'll promise not to talk over you.
Well, I don't know. I don't know
Well,
about Whitney.
That won't work very often.
I'm going to be quiet.
See, you've already lost it. So.
Well, I was going to tell a little background on Don. I've recently met Katie. They've been married for how many years now?
Almost six.
Just hit 6.
years.
Almost
It's at our
6.
sixth
Just hit 6.
Okay, quite a while.
Yeah.
And Kira's engaged, so I'm sure she'll have some questions for you.
Right.
A little background. Don and I met about 13 years ago or 12 and a half years ago.
Yeah.
His wife, Elane, died around 8 months, I believe, around the time Oliver died. So today we wanted to talk a little bit about Elane, your late wife, talk about your 2 kids, like what happened during that time period, her illness, and then post-death. And then, as always in this group, we talk about some fun things like I've heard Don's dating stories, and thank God he found Katie because
That's going
Some
to give
of 'em.
hope to people with
Has Katie heard these stories?
totally.
Okay, I think so.
Yes, let's start with Elane.
Okay. Elane and I were in college together at the University of North Alabama. I did my last 2 years there. And I was in the broadcasting English journalism major, and she was over in the art department. And so those things kind of commingle. Through a mutual friend, I met Elane and her husband, Randall. They had been married for about 6 years at that point when I met them. Got married right out of high school up there.
Oh, okay.
So we were friends. And I knew them and hung around with them and, broke laws with them.
Had
You know,
fun.
as you do.
Had a,
I'm
you know,
fun,
Yeah.
Don.
because the art department guys, they were a lot of fun. So
I'm a design major, so I get it.
yeah, I think that's how I met her. We actually got together. My senior year, she and Elane and Randall were having a party at their apartment up in a little old house. And we were drinking not very good scotch at that point. And Elane and I were talking, and she said she thought maybe that she and Randall were going to get a divorce. And I looked at her and I said, well, if you do that, I think you and I should be together.
Wow. So you had that thought in your head and was just keeping it quiet
No.
for quite a while, or
No,
it came suddenly.
It was just,
The Scotch.
came out.
boom.
The scotch.
It was the scotch.
It was the scotch had
Wasn't the
another
scotch?
plan.
Gay scotch. And no, I mean, we were
I'm going
friends.
to give
There
that
was
scotch
never-
to somebody that I want to be with
Yeah,
if
well,
I ever
I've-
find one.
Go with the single malt now. Single malt was also involved in us getting together.
Wow, I'm
There's
going
a-
to have to
there's a
try
trend,
that. Yeah.
But so yeah, it was just it was so off the top of my head and so unplanned because we were friends. There was nothing other than that, but I just went boom, because she was such a wonderful, nice person. Next day, I go back to the apartment. Randall's off in class, and I said to Elane, I said, do you remember what we talked about last night? And she said, yes, I do. And I said, well, I'm serious. And she said, okay. And this is right before Thanksgiving. At Christmas, I go home to Mississippi, and I'm sitting down with my parents, and I said, I know the woman that I'm going to get married to.
Oh, wow.
And I said, but
She has
she's
to be
currently
divorced
married.
first.
You know?
Exactly.
So I'm just going to distance myself, as much as I can, which was very difficult because we were all still living in the same town and hanging out. And I was hanging out with Randall as well. But
And he had no idea.
Is it like with Randall after
Yeah.
that?
he had no idea, but I don't know. There was something just really weird about the whole situation that he was seeing other girls and he was trying to get me to go and meet girls. And at that point, I'm like, no, I'm fine. But so she moved in, I think it was April 80. We got married in May of 81.
Wow.
And in
when
November,
you know.
yeah, in November of 81, we moved off to Utah for 3 years, which was great. Separate from family, separate from all that, and
And Randall.
together, and Randall.
And, get Randall.
You already had your friendship established, so you were already connected that way.
Yeah, so we were friends, and
you knew.
I don't know, it just,
Oh, I love that story.
I do too.
She was a photographer. She finished her school at Weber State in Ogden, Utah, and got into photography and worked at a newspaper there and did some for Associated Press. So we were both in that same kind of business together. So,
And you have two
daughters. Caitlin is 34.
It's hard because we're 34 too, so it gets confusing.
It does.
Yeah. Okay. She's 34, lives here in Austin, has the Kinship milk tea business that we see here on the table or
really
here
good.
on the
It's really
table.
yummy.
It's delicious.
So she's trying to make a business go. I've been going a couple of years. And my other daughter, Anna, is 29. And she is halfway through law school at St. Mary's in San Antonio.
Wow. Nice.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
So,
Proud dad over here, I think.
yeah. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what happened when your wife became ill. and
Okay.
how that
2008, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I can figure the year because it was Caitlin's freshman year at UT. So breast cancer, diagnosed, had a lumpectomy, did the chemo. We opted for the radiation, which, 4% chance that the radiation will cause other issues later. We decided 4% chance is nothing. So that went for basically 2 years. So October 2010, the oncologist, hey, you're good. You're clear. Everything's good. You're wonderful. Great. In November, she started getting tired, just kind of lethargic. December, even tireder. Facebook was new then. We usually do a bonfire on New Year's Eve at the house and invite a few people over and drink scotch. And I remember doing this post of, well, sorry, last minute, we're not going to do a bonfire this year. Elane is near death.
Oh my God.
And
Joking.
Oh. Yeah.
so anyways, it was, just being a smart ass,
Sure.
go, oh, she's really feeling bad.
Which is very unlike
Well, what
Don,
you meant.
so everybody knows.
So,
Okay.
that thing kind of comes back once in a while. But she went to the doctor, had something in her mouth, went to a dentist in January. Then she goes to an eye, ear, nose, and throat.
Not ever thinking that it's cancer related in any
she
way.
has
Not
to
at
go
all.
back to the oncologist.
No,
She's kind of
she
making
did-
the rounds.
She finally, on a Monday, said, I'm going to the oncologist. She went back to her oncologist. They did blood work, sent her right across the street to St. David South to the emergency room. And she was there for 1 month. So,
And where were your daughters at this time?
Caitlin at that time was a junior at UT. So Elane goes Monday to the oncologist, to the hospital. We're going to run a bunch of tests. On Tuesday, Caitlin is supposed to leave for a study abroad in Paris for 6 months, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and you think, Elane and I talked to, well, no, this is the only chance you'll get to live abroad.
Yeah, as a parent, you're like, no, don't stop your life. You need to go and do this. I don't want to be any concern to you. Yeah.
This is exactly where my oldest is right now. She's a junior at UT and she's studying in Barcelona. So that really
hits home.
That hits home for me.
So anyways, I take Caitlin to the airport on Tuesday. I drop her off. I'm headed back to the hospital. Elane calls and said, you come to the hospital now. I go, it's leukemia. So we talked to the doctors, and whichever kind it was is statistically the most curable kind of leukemia.
Mm-hmm. So and what stage is it? Or do they tell you?
I don't know.
The bad stage. Every stage is not good. Yeah.
I don't know. But
was that caused by the radiation, they think, or they don't know?
You don't really know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, medicine I've learned is an inexact science, So we discussed what to do with Caitlin, and we decided we could intercept her at the airport in Washington and tell her to come home, or you beat cancer, you'll beat this. Let her go. So,
yes, yeah.
So she goes to Paris, and at that point I sent her an email. Your mother has leukemia. Don't worry about it. It's going to all be good. And I've still got the email she sent back to me. Thanks for starting my trip off. Great. I don't know what to do. So that was a decision that, of course, I have regretted many times over.
Allowing her to go or sending
her. And she and I have talked about it any number of times. And
most of us would have done the same thing.
I think they have to know. Like my dad tried to keep something from me one time when my mother was only 52. And if something had happened to her and I didn't know, I would have. So I think you made the right decision.
Yeah. All around, every decision that you made was thought out and really trying to do what was best. And that's the thing with the hindsight. It could have gone the other way. Sure. And then,
And then she would be angry at you because you wrecked her abroad.
Yeah. It's a no-win.
That's kind of a lose-lose when you're dealing with cancer.
I hate to hear that you still have guilt, though, because your heart was in the right place the entire time.
Yeah. Oh. But, you make the best decision you can based on the information you have. And that's what I always say. I made the best decision I could at the time. Maybe wasn't the right one.
Since you didn't have a lot of time either. Yeah. It's not like you had a lot of time to think it through.
Since then, you think that's going to be your only chance to live abroad. She wanted to do that. She studied French in college and, Well, since then, she has, did the 6 months there. Mm-hmm. She came back, graduated, taught English in France for 6 months, taught English in Thailand for 6 months, hence the Thai milk tea, traveled to Vietnam, Cambodia, blah, this place on her own.
But that Paris trip kicked it off. So it's like, I'm a firm believer that God's timing is perfect. As much as we wish things were different or that maybe it would have been better with this or that, this is what happened. And that is what happened. It was supposed to happen that way. Yeah. So what did happen? Because we've gone, off.
It gets worse. Okay. So, a week into this thing with Elane, I knew that it was not good. Mm-hmm. Her sisters had come down from Alabama, and she was asking, "Is this my time? Am I done? Is this?" And I was like, "No." But a week into it, I could see. I mean, she immediately started down the hill, and it was pretty rapid. And I think, in my mind, it was a reaction to some of the drugs that didn't sit well with her. So, a week and a half or maybe 2 weeks in, they put her in this crazy ass bed. They knocked her out, whatever she was. And that was kind of, essentially all she wrote. At one point, 2.5 weeks in or so, everything was just crashing. She's probably not going to make it through the night. Anna and I are in the hospital. Anna's singing to her, and, a few people are coming by. I call Caitlin. I say, you need to come home right now. Catches a flight, comes home. By the time she gets back to Austin, things are on the upswing. The oxygen is looking better, blah, blah, blah. Of course, her mother is sedated and out, and so she doesn't get to talk to her. But we did talk
Sure,
to
sure.
you. And so she stayed about a week and sent her back to Paris. And then some short number of days later, I had to call her and tell her, your mother died. You need to come home again. So
That's the worst. And like you
So
said,
hard.
you were listening to Lacey's story and that part where she has to tell Ryder. That is a heartbreaking part of all of our stories. And anyone listening who's a widower with children, having to tell them that is and then you weren't there with her.
Oh, yeah.
That's very difficult.
But Anna and I were at the hospital. The hospital called. I had gone with a friend to get out of the hospital, gone to the Continental Club to hear a little bit of music. I get out, my phone is like all these messages from the hospital. I call, they say, you need to come here now. This is on a Thursday. And actually that Thursday I had arranged to meet with all the doctors on Friday morning because I said, I could see the writing
Things
was on
working.
the wall. It wasn't going well. And I was ready to,
Stop.
pull the plug. On
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
And because it just wasn't, she wasn't going to come out of this.
Yeah.
And I knew it at that point. So I had a meeting arranged the next morning with the doctors Thursday night. They called, come to the hospital. I called Anna, her boyfriend at the time, brought her to the hospital. And, we,
Okay.
sorry.
It's okay, John.
Never apologize.
John,
for that.
that's
over
right.
here.
We don't apologize for
This is the love.
yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
Well,
and the trauma of it all. Yeah.
guys, it's okay to do this.
Of course it is.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
We wish they would.
Yeah.
We'd be a lot healthier.
Anna and I were there. We told her goodbye. They flipped the switch, and our lives went completely to shit. It's a you think the birth of your child is the most powerful thing, but being with somebody when they die is just it's phenomenal. I mean, we're all going to die. But being with someone that you know and that you love is just, it's something I wouldn't have done any other way.
We will be right back. Imagine a financial partner who meets you exactly where you are, acknowledging your grief and taking the time to listen, empathize, and truly understand what matters to you. Strategic Investment Management can help you plan a course that honors your past while embracing your future. Whether you're worried about tax implications, paying off debt, or stewarding your asset distributions, Roger's team can make a plan that's aligned with your family's needs and goals. For more information, visit www.strategicim.com. or give them a call at 512-341-9898. Again, that's 512-341-9898. Tell them you heard about them on Every Widow Thing.
Well, we recently had a podcast about our husband's ashes. Sadly, Kira still can't get into the box, can you?
We have to get in the box.
I'm working on it.
You gotta get in the box. The whole point is you want to be able to do something with those ashes. I came across a great website. It's called spiritpieces.com. And what I love about it is that they give you a variety of options. It's jewelry, it's glass art, it's statues. You can do a ton of stuff with ashes, and we all have quite a few ashes.
There's a lot in the box.
Yeah,
There is a lot in the box.
I like the paperweight idea.
Yes.
Doesn't spiritpieces.com have paperweights?
Yes. And you know what's so great? And there's one that I'm actually going to order. It's this heart paperweight and it's beautiful. But what I love about the glass art is that they have like hanging pieces and stuff. And when the light hits it, it feels very heavenly.
That's so pretty.
I know. So if you're interested, if this is something that you would like for your own loved one, spiritpieces.com/every widow thing, so they know that you heard about it through us, is a great option for you and for your loved one. We hope you check it out.
And now back to the show.
Did Elane have any time? It all happened so quickly before she was unconscious. Was there any discussion around this could be it? Were you just telling her you loved her, or did she know?
Other than her, 4 or 5 days into it, saying, "Is it my time? Is this it?" And I'm like, no,
Because
of
you're
course
trying
not.
to stay positive.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you want-
Right.
That's
Sure.
because that's a lot of the time. It's part of the fighting journey for people that are ill. And you want to give them that last bit of strength that they're going to be able to turn it around.
But it was also about that time that when I'm thinking, this is not going well.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, this could be bad.
Did you and your girls seek out any therapy in the wake of the loss? And I know that was a big part of healing for many of us.
Yeah.
And I know it's important for the kids, but
Yeah.
it's hard at different ages to get your children on board with that kind of thing.
We did. We had actually done a little bit of therapy some odd number of years ago. We went in for kind of one of my children, and the whole family goes, and I was the one that ended up going back. So, you know, I had a little experience with it. So yes, we did. We found a woman, a therapist. We went one time, and all we heard from her was, you know, whenever we were discussing things, all we heard from her was, how does that make you feel?
Right.
How does that make you feel? And we walked out of there and we looked at each other and went, well, we're not going back to see her.
Right.
And,
Because she should know we feel like garbage.
Yeah.
That's how that feels.
and that was it. Ann and I did do some, maybe a year later, she and I went together to someone, but Caitlin was, still, you know, she finished her 6 months in France. And
Probably exactly what she needed at that time.
yeah, maybe.
For certain age kids, you
Some
never know
escapism.
what. Sometimes they need a little escape. Yeah,
Well,
some little ones have to dip
yeah.
in and dip out. They can't.
Well, we've discussed, and she, you know, obviously she said, you know, you and Anna were there together
Right.
going through this, and I was across the
Right.
ocean.
Grief is
And-
very isolating anyway,
Yeah.
and she may have felt even more separate. And I just imagine your brain is so mean. You know, your brain can be so mean to yourself and not give yourself any grace. And she probably was struggling with guilt for not being there. And
Anger.
yeah, it's a
You
lot of
and
emotion.
mom, sister, world.
And that
The
really is
French.
that is the one emotion that
I'm
people
always
don't
angry
talk
with the
about is
French.
anger.
anger.
That anger, because when I
Ooh.
met you, I think that was why Adam and Wendy wanted us to meet. So, but I'm glad, because didn't you end up doing a grief group? That's how you met Zephyr, our friend
Well,
Zephyr.
you're the one who told me about this grief group. Yeah, this is 2.5 years after Elane died, because I'm like, I'm just going to worry about the kids. I want them to be fine. I want them to get over this. And, you know, needless to say, or, you know, boy, we struggled. I mean, it was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. So many details I don't even remember. Ann and I was still in the house, but, you know, in my mind, I hardly remember that.
Mm-hmm.
And I certainly wasn't doing any parenting.
And she's 16.
She's 16 at the time.
So a sophomore
age.
or junior.
Something like that. yeah.
And so would you say that you kind of retreated, or you like what were you doing during that time that makes you feel like you weren't really parenting?
I just,
We had a full-time job.
yeah,
number
well,
one.
you know, I had a job, and then it was like, no, you're going to have to figure this out. You're going to have to learn stuff on your own. I don't have the energy. I don't have the brain power. I'm mad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I am so mad. I mean, I'm surprised people at work didn't just beat me up all the time, because I was so mad at people and so hostile. I did a lot of apologizing, though. I am not afraid to apologize, and
For you.
I've gotten pretty good at it because I have to do it a lot. But anger was just,
Yeah.
and
Takes over. It can.
yeah,
We appreciate you acknowledging that, because I think that's the one emotion that is the most difficult to deal with.
Mhm.
You can help people who are crying. You feel like you can hug them. But when people are angry, and that is a natural side effect of grief.
And
So-
it's not very sympathized with. You know, everyone
Right,
expects you to be
exactly.
sad, you know, and go in a room and cry and sit in the dark, but they don't expect some of the irritation and frustration and the short fuse and the lack of capacity for trivial things that other people, you know, silly things that are going on in other people's lives, and you just have no bandwidth for.
Well,
Exactly.
Anna, 2 months after Elane died, Anna said, all my friends have gone back to doing what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still sad. And I said, well, one thing you learn is the world continues to go around.
Yeah.
Your world stops,
Yeah.
but the world continues to go around. And that's the way it should be. Everybody's there for the first month. And I always tell people, several other people I know that have lost their spouse in the last, 3 or 4 years, is everybody's there for the first month or two, bringing food, we're calling.
Mm-hmm.
I said, go back in 6 months
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and see how they're doing.
Go back year 2.
Go back
that
in
was
year
really
2,
hard.
you know.
Yeah.
Go back in 13 years.
When something
Yes.
big
Yeah.
happens,
Say,
when your child graduates and goes to college,
Yeah.
How's it
and
going?
you're still
6
Well,
months. 6 months in, I called one of the teachers from Elane's school and said, "Could you get some people to make some meals for me? I mean, I'm not even cooking at this point.
Right.
I'm not doing, And 6 months in, and you get a lot of people. One thing you learn in grief counseling is you hear all this. Oh, my friends are like, well, it's been
I know.
6 months. You should be over this.
Right.
Mm.
And we hate the word over
Can't do that.
because there's no getting over. It's getting through, and hopefully you find a way to do it in a healthy way, which
So,
you did end up doing.
eventually.
I mean, so because I saw the lights come on, I did. I remember meeting you, and I was like, "Oh my, we're both two people that are swimming in grief." That was really kind of comical. And then we went to a couple of parties that Zephyr and some other people were. That it was nice because they were that was my first introduction to a group of people, because I went to the grief group. The one that I told you about, I hated it because the older lady, much older lady, said, you can find somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, don't ever say that again. And I'm leaving. And I left and I never went back. So I did the one-on-one, and then I found you guys, but we could only dip in and out because Ryder was so little. I was still just having to do the basic things. But,
and like Don said, I know I was all about my kids.
right.
I was the last person that I was taking care of because it was just, I had 3
Right.
little kids and they'd lost their dad. And
I'll
that's
be
all
fine.
I did.
I'm worried about that.
That's all I did for a long time.
And you're
But
exhausted.
that creeps up on you later when you're like, oh, wait, I finally did have a therapist that said, you never grieved.
Right. I feel like in some ways I still haven't grieved fully, and I'm 6 years in. Before we go into the happier moments when you meet Katie, and we're dying to hear about that. And then Katie, we want to know all about dating and married to a widower, because that's that could take 2 hours. But Dawn, what?
Especially with Don, just so we know.
Right. We have widowers who listen in. And I actually know one in particular who's just now 5 months in. He has a 9-year-old daughter. What advice would you give to yourself back then? Like, what would you want to tell yourself back then when, as you say, everything had gone to shit?
And this is one thing that I learned when I met Lacey, and she had mentioned this grief counseling. And 2.5 years in, I go, it's like 10 people. We met Zephyr. Zephyr is like half my age, but just a great person.
I like his name.
Yeah.
Darling.
And so you meet these people, and you find that you have all this same thing in common. And one lady came in, it had been 6 years since her husband died. One lady came in, it had been 2 weeks since her husband died,
Oh,
right?
wow.
And I'm keeping one of them's keeping, their son is 5 and keeping the husband's suits.
Mm-hmm.
And, I had a yard sale really quick. Whatever you're doing when your spouse dies, whatever you're doing, however you're handling it is okay.
Yeah.
I always say, well, you don't really have a choice. You have to get strong. Well, you do have a choice. You can go down the hill and you can become an alcoholic and you can do it. That's not a good choice. But whatever you're doing is normal, and everybody's going to do it different. People are going to keep some stuff around, and people are going to get rid of spouse's stuff, and people are going to start some therapy, 2 weeks in, and some are going to be like me and wait 2.5 years, and some are going to be 6. And also, one thing I learned is you do what you want to do. Friends would call and go, hey, we're going to go here. We're going to go have dinner. We're going to go to a bar. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then I call them a half hour before and go, not going.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, why not? I
For you.
don't
I don't
feel
want
like
to.
it.
Yeah.
I can't handle it. I just don't
Right.
feel like it.
Yeah.
So you do whatever you think you need to do. And at some point, things start back up at some point.
That's really good advice.
It really is.
It is good advice. So tell us a little bit more about the grief group really quickly, just because I know I never was able to find one, but then again, I didn't have a lot of free time because I had the 3 kids and I have no family in the area. And then I met her and then
Lacey.
her and then her.
Yeah.
And then that became, and I felt the same that you were describing with your grief group. I finally was with people that got it.
Mhm.
And that's why we're here today. Because
And we all did everything different.
overwhelming,
Yeah.
joyful feeling
Yeah.
to have people that understood me. And
Well, having your spouse die puts you in a little fraternity that you don't want to be in.
Right.
And all of a sudden, and you do, and you meet other people and you can really empathize with them. You can, my friends helped me out so much. But this grief group, like I said, it wasn't your thing. And I went and immediately was like, okay, this is okay. This is where I need to be. And I did it, I think, for about a year. I don't really remember. And at some point I'm like, okay, I'm okay with this. But just being in there and having other people, that old proverbial safe space or whatever, is they're in the same boat. And you realize there's a lot of people in the same boat that you're in.
Mhm.
And you're absolutely not alone.
Mhm.
How did you find it? Was it like a Facebook thing, or how did you find it?
Well, it was.
I think
it
that's
used to
hard
be
for
my
people.
healing place, and then it's now the Austin
and-
Center for Grief and Loss.
Okay.
You came on and got this great group of people that were kind of fun and cool because I met them through you,
Their
and I
names
thought,
were
well,
Zephyr.
we're Zephyr, and
They
Zephyr's
were
really
younger.
super cute.
I think for me, it was, that
And
for
he was
widows,
really young.
I was 42. It was like I couldn't find anyone that was under 65 or whatever to hang out with. Like it was just hard to find young
Is that a problem?
widows.
Back then,
No,
when
but
you-
I-
then it
I
was.
was in it with one of my kids was 4. I was in it with small kids. So it's
Yeah.
just a different
Yeah.
time. And then some of the groups, that group I don't think was around, or at least I'd never found it. And some of the groups were very cancer related, which
Mhm.
would have been great for you. But ours was sudden death. So it was just kind of not the same
Mhm.
journey.
You go in and they do like an intake, right? They do a little interview with you and like, okay, this group, and they have this group and that group, and whether it's, different, however your loss was experienced, and like we think you'll be good,
Yeah.
Men are told to buck up, be a man, handle it. And so hearing that you actually went and found a group, I think that's so
Well,
important.
men don't, that's why we have bartenders,
Right.
or friends. And I don't really have a bartender here in town, but I have friends, and there comes a point where I'm thinking, wow, they're tired of hearing this. They've got to be tired of hearing
Right.
this.
I think we've all thought that before.
I want real quick. We
Yeah.
talk about the friends thing.
Yeah.
A couple years in, or I don't know, 3 or 4 years in, I don't know. A group of friends and we started riding bikes. We'd go over to the east side Sunday morning, 9:00. We would ride bikes around, nice and flat, 18 miles, and we'd go someplace like Cisco's and have, breakfast tacos and everything. And I remember riding my bike with this group of friends, and all of a sudden it hit me that I wasn't thinking about
Mhm.
Elane and death and how horrible things were.
Right.
I was out with friends and I was getting exercise
yeah.
and I was doing stuff. And just the fact that you realize that, wow, I'm not thinking about this 24 hours a day. I'm thinking about 23 hours a day. But, and so I had this group of friends that were there for me and stayed with me and listened to me tell the story 125 times. And later on, some of these friends, when they were having issues in their life, they would call up and go, hey, can I come sit at the bonfire and have a beer? And so I realized that, wow, these people helped me, and now I'm able to listen to you
Wow.
and
I
help
love
you
that.
out. And and that happened on several occasions.
Yeah.
And so, friendship, man, your friends, your good ones will hang with you.
So important.
Yes.
But it says a lot about you too, Don. I think we talk about, oh, they have such great friends. Well, it speaks to you as a person too.
I'm a
If
very
you
nice
have-
guy.
If you have those, that's what I hear.
I'm super fun. I'm really great.
I'm awesome.
Are you enjoying the Every Widow Thing episodes? Do us a favor. Go on over to wherever you get your podcasts and actually follow the show. And if there's an option for rate or review, please do that. We'd really appreciate it.